Okay. Mostly I'm talking to the Cancer collective because I'm a Cancer. Like I told you in the other videos, or one of them that I posted, the whole thing about like collective tarot readings. I have nothing against the readers, they're beautiful. But what I've noticed is that you really start to focus and zone in on what you want to hear and what you think you resonate with, which may or may not be reality for you. But I do also know that as a part of like a specific sign, we do tend to go through cycles and similar situations. I think all humans probably go through similar situations. And the cards do pick those up. It's just that it's, there's 9 billion people now in the world. So I'm guessing Cancers are 1/12 of that, about. So it's an F ton of similar people and similar situations. But we kind of move through life differently, and I know that. And because I don't do cards, and maybe at some point I will, but I think like they really have to be more personal, because there's been times that I really resonated with something that I heard, that I just swore up and down that it was meant for me. And then I would get a reading and it would be like, nope, not you. Everyone else, but not you. And that kind of really sends you on like this goose chase of like, well, was it real? Is it for long term? Can that change? Like, it's just not a healthy state of mind to be in. So if you have a tendency to do that, that's why I want to be a different kind of like, because I am still intuitive and I'm still an empath, and that's real for me. The things that I pick up on from just energy or what's going on in the world, or things that I talk about, aren't specific to any particular signs. It's just that because I'm a Cancer, I feel like we go through things collectively, and we feel things very strongly, and we need a lot of help. And sometimes we just need like somebody else's voice to make us feel like almost heard, but without talking about it. You know what I mean? Because we don't always feel, a lot of people who are sensitive and emotional, we don't always feel comfortable talking about some of the things that we go through in life. And as we go through them, sometimes you just want to hear someone say, hey, it's gonna be okay, or I'm going through the same thing, because it makes you feel a little bit less small. Sometimes we feel really small. But I also know that I'm sure that there will be other people who are not a Cancer, or like the last day right before Leo, so who are also, could be Leos or whatever, who could be going through similar stuff. We all go through cycles, right? And so for me, and as I've been listening also to the collective readings for Cancer sign, for Leo, there's a lot of cycles that we've been closing out, okay? And so I wanted to take a moment to talk about that. Most Cancer individuals are very sensitive and very in tune with their emotions. Not sensitive in a way that we start crying for everything, because we don't. We just feel things, you know what I mean? We feel people's energy. We feel how they're coming on to us. We just feel things a little more deep than I believe most other signs, right? And sometimes we go through situations where we're dealing with people who are not other Cancers, obviously. And those people just don't feel things the same way that we do. They move through life differently. For me, I realized that the most difference that I feel with the people of different signs are earth signs. We are very different. Earth and I would say Aries. Earth and Aries, because they, especially earth signs like Tauruses, right? Cancers and Tauruses are supposed to be very, very compatible, as we are. We are very compatible, but it's just a completely, like, we complement each other, you know what I mean? In terms of like friendships, business relationships could be beautiful, even romantic relationships. One kind of needs the other and feeds off of the other, but we're very vastly different. And so how you approach different people really has to be consistent with who they are, you know. And it's not that you have to go by zodiac and everything like that, but it does play, I feel that it plays a big part in how people perceive the world around them. You know what I mean? It's not like 100% like to the T, but they just feel things differently. You know what I mean? Like earth signs like Tauruses are so grounded. They really are in the 3D. So like the people that are around me that do really well in life, in terms of like finances, in terms of like the 3D world, are earth signs, or Tauruses. And like Aries, I say specifically because it's like a ram or whatever. So it's like a fire sign, but it's like a very earthly one. Not, you know what I mean? Fiery, but like very grounded, very like headstrong. And for us Cancers, and I'm sure other water signs, we're like all up in the head, in the universe. Like we're a lot less connected to this world. We're more out there somewhere, you know. We deal with emotions, how we feel, how things make us feel, how we make other people feel, etc., etc. So when you have relationships, I feel like so many times we take things very personally, you know what I mean? And it's just something to think about, because sometimes the world is just too much. You know what I mean? And there's so many occasions that I'm just like, why am I so sensitive? Like, why can't I just like let it go? You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like, that's just who you are. That's who I am. And you shouldn't have to change yourself. You just have to kind of empathize again and understand that like we're not all the same. Sorry. We're not all the same, and that's okay. Anyway, that was like lengthy. But what I wanted to touch on today in terms of the Cancer Collective, as myself and as I'm sure other people, from what I've been listening to, the Cancer Collective, because it resonates with everyone. We've been closing out a lot of cycles. We've been having to let go of a lot of people who are dear to us, people that we never thought that we would let go of. And to anybody who's kind of going through that right now, because I understand we all are of different ages and different, generations, and everybody's going through different things. And Cancers are very guilty of feeling bad and empathizing, sympathizing with everyone, and feeling guilty if we're not showing up, if we're not giving our best, if we're not understanding, if we're like, you know what I mean, not sensitive enough towards people. And I want to tell you that it is a form of manipulation that Cancers are guilty of, and that feeling bad about somebody, for somebody, and feeling sorry for them, which we do all the time, is a really big killer of other people's ability to grow as a human. Okay? When we accept people for who they are, and that's beautiful, to accept people for who they are and the cycles that they go through. But we have to learn to detach, and I know it's so difficult, but you have to let things be and you have to let them play out, because emotionally manipulating people into appreciating how much you stay, how many times you've stayed, how understanding you are, and how they just don't appreciate it, basically, is not a healthy dynamic in any situation, be it your family, be it romantic relationships, friendships, or whatever. And I am guilty of that. You know, I've had relationships in my life and, you know, family situations where you're like, but I'm doing everything. And it's not like a narcissistic trait, not really, but it's just like feeling like, because it's true, you are giving everything. You are showing up 100%. And the other person just isn't getting that. You know what I mean? But you, at the same time, do not walk away. And you continuously, like, keep showing up, keep reminding them that you're showing up, and then watching them not appreciate it, and then basically keeping this cycle going. And so feeling bad for somebody is one of the worst things that you could do for them. And this is not something that only cancers are guilty of. This is people in general. When you love somebody, you want to understand. When you love somebody, you make excuses for them. When you love somebody, you want to stay present. You want to help them heal. But the divine plan is the divine plan, regardless of what you believe in. Whatever will happen, will happen. The more you try to avoid situations, the more likely they're going to happen. The more you try to run away from something, the more it's going to chase after you. The more, like, it's just cause and effect that happens, right? And so, like, if you're dealing with people who don't show up for you the right way, if you're dealing with people who are dealing with addictions, if you're dealing with people who have very selfish ways and are not really appreciating you, get on your 2 feet if you have them. You know, gather up what you have and walk away. Okay? Walk away, close the cycle, shut the door. It doesn't mean that it's the wrong person, like I said in my previous video. It doesn't mean that it's the wrong person. It just means that that person needs to complete their own cycles. That person needs to transcend. And if you keep accepting them for who they are in that state, they will never grow. And in life, we're always responsible for our own growth. And so if you're perpetuating that sorrow that they have for themselves, you're allowing them to be lazy. You know what I mean? An example for me, and this is not bashing my upbringing, but an example for me, because I'm a sensitive child, I was a sensitive child, I'm a sensitive person, very emotional. I struggled with phobias and like OCD kind of situations. And my phobia was throwing up. I was deathly afraid of throwing up. And it's so subconscious, it's a phobia for real. I've fought through it, you know, and now that I'm older, like, it's happened enough that I pushed through, but my body immediately starts to like shake, and it's like a panic almost. But not like I don't hyperventilate. Like, it takes a while for me to calm down, and it really is a phobia, and it's very, very, very deep ingrained in me. And so my beautiful mother, who loves me very much, and I appreciate everything that she's ever done. And again, I'm not complaining. It's not a complaint about how I was raised or how people showed up. People show up as they can. I'm just saying what has occurred that led me down the path of the weak for a long time, and probably still in a way. She would feel bad for me. Okay, she would feel bad. She would allow me to dwell in this. Okay, I skipped school once. I skipped school twice. I would skip school for a whole week. I would wake up in the morning and I would feel sick. I would feel nauseous. And my mom was so kind to me that she never pushed me to like go. You know what I mean? Like, go to school. You're going to be fine. If you're not fine, I'll come get you. Okay? She allowed me to be in that, oh, you're not feeling well. Oh, we got to deal with it. You know, we went to doctors. When in reality, it was just my body and my brain taking over and feeling comfortable in the misery that it was creating for itself. And I don't mean specific misery, but just like the situation, like, okay, I feel sick, I get to stay home, and then like as soon as like the day will go by, I would feel better. But like to me, it was real. When you're a child, what you feel is 100% real. It's just that it comes from a place of nerves, it comes from a place of anxiety, it comes from a place of phobia, that you have to like, even for OCD, there's people take pills and all sorts of things, but the most the most real treatment for it is cognitive behavior therapy. You know what I mean? You have to push through, like, no matter what. You just have to do whatever's bothering you until it no longer bothers you, because you're rewiring your brain, right? And so that situation when I was a child, because nobody pushed me out of it, nobody forced me to sit there with myself, feel sick, and go to school, move on with my day, and to get out of it myself, it kept repeating, and it was like a snowball. It would tack on more situations. Then I was nervous just going out. There was a point in my life when I was mid-teens, no, I was already driving, that I would not be able to go to like Walgreens or CVS and be in the store without feeling like I'm gonna throw up and leaving. I would not, like, it got to the point where I allowed my subconscious fears take over my life in their entirety. Okay? And this happens to everybody. As soon as you give your brain the allowance to be lazy, the allowance to dwell on itself, the allowance to feel bad for itself, the allowance to just sit there in its own little pity party, the more likely it's going to last forever. And not forever, but it's going to last as long as you allow it. Everything is you allowing it to do so. It can't be other people. And like I said, I'm not blaming, my upbringing. People do the best that they can. Of course, if you see a child, going through things and you don't really understand because it's not something you felt, you want to sympathize, you want to be there, you want to make them feel comfortable. But sometimes you gotta push through, because that's like, that's better, you know what I mean, for them. And so as I move through life, as a Cancer, as a sensitive person, as an emotional person, the people that gravitate towards me are people that are in deep need of healing, you know what I mean? Whether it's something that they've been through, whether it's trauma, whatever it is, addictions, they always end up in my life, you know what I mean? And I have to figure out how to move about it. And sometimes you have to close the cycle, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean be cruel and just like throw them, whatever. But you have to stand your ground. You have to stand on business. What you say is what you mean, You do this, we cannot coexist, I could love you from afar. And you have to keep that going. Whether, even if it's your children, like I said, you have to evaluate the situation. You have to read about people and, psychology and how people get through things, okay? Comfort never leads to growth. People did not grow as a society in terms of medical progress, in terms of building, in terms of engineering and technology. People did not achieve the things that they've achieved because they were comfortable. They achieved these things because they were put in a place of discomfort, whether it's illness, brink of death, watching death, wars, poverty, whatever it is. You have to move through and push through and grow when you're uncomfortable. Like, you don't have a choice. And you have to do that to the people around you. No matter how sensitive, no matter how bad you feel about it, you have to allow people to grow, because it's the only way that they will be able to overcome the things that are ailing them, and overcome the things and the situations that are coming in between you having a beautiful relationship with somebody, right? like addictions to alcohol, to any kind of vices, come in between a lot of beautiful, what could have been beautiful relationships. And there's a lot of people enabling these the people that are suffering from it, enabling them to continue on that path, keeping them comfortable, you know what I mean? And that just isn't the way to go, because you could shove that person out, they could figure out life, because when we're on the edge of something, in terms of like, we might not make it, we push through. And I know that it's scary because we don't want to lose people. I know it's scary because we don't want to lose relationships. But you have to control yourself. And again, I don't mean cruelty, like just throw people out. I just mean a very controlled, detached way of going about it. Rational, logical, you know what I mean? If you have earth signs around you, or air signs, like Aquarius or like Libras, talk to them about your situation. Talk to somebody who could see you, because like I said, everyone is different. I don't know what exactly someone is going through. I just mean like things that I've gone through. What would have helped me be on a better path through life, on a stronger path that started in childhood. For a lot of us, for most people, their struggles really stem from childhood, because when you're a child, everything is life or death. You know what I mean? Your parents are your whole world. As soon as something happens on a familial level, we start to crumble, because that's our entire world when we're kids. We don't know anything. We don't have, other connections. We don't have understanding of like work life and school life. Like when we're born, everything is just parents, family, and as soon as something starts crumbling there, our entire persona starts to, wobble. And some people are more sensitive to it than others. Like I said, cancers are very sensitive, so we end up with a lot of emotional trauma that lasts lifetime, a whole lifetime, and then you have to deal with it. And the older you get, the harder it is to deal with. So if you're struggling through something like that, if you're struggling to end some cycles, please understand that letting people go, finding maybe a safe space to let go, like because we do care, whether it's help, a hospital or whatever, different people. Like I said, I don't want to trigger, people in situations that they're going through, but I just mean like find a safe place to allow that person to grow, to allow that person to evolve. But don't be so emotionally attached to the outcome of that person's change, because you don't know where they're going to end up, right? And give yourself the space to be a little bit selfish in keeping your peace and keeping your own sanity, because trying to fix people is impossible. They're only going to be fixed, usually, is by when other people throw them to the curb, not the people that are always there for them. That's just part of life. We always take advantage of the people that love us the most. We take advantage of the people that give us comfort, because it's something that allows us to keep going, to keep feeding the machine of like self-pity. So yeah, I hope this resonated with my little Cancer cuties, and I hope that it helps put some things in perspective, that maybe my experiences shed some light on something that you're going through, or that you haven't gone through yet. And when you do go through something similar, that you handle it better than maybe I have before. Okay? I wish you all the best. Bye-bye.